Alright, so this will be the first Forex analysis of 2015 for me. Looked over the charts, didn't look at them pretty much at all for the last couple weeks. We'll start with the pound New Zealand dollar, and I just wanted to show you guys quickly on the weekly. We have a pretty good triangle forming. It is quite large, but we got good touches there. So let's go down to the daily, and I've got another triangle and a fib. You can see that I've still got this upwards fib on the daily that we've had for quite a while, and you can see the triangle formation better. So let's go down to the 4 hour to see the fibs a little bit better. But here you can see we've got 61.8 on our longer term fib, and I fibbed the last 2 weeks. So from the 4 hour chart, the last 2 weeks is what I fibbed on this pair, because we've had significant gaps on the pound pairs, but they recovered quite quickly. And the New Zealand dollar is actually the only commodity currency that I'm looking at the pound to weaken against at the moment. We'll look at the other ones, but what I'm looking at here is whether or not we move back below this 61.8 and the 50% fib for a short, or on our quicker 4 hour trend line, if this actually confirms into a nice trend line with a touch, which will correspond up here with WR1 and the daily and 4 hour, or the daily 55 and 4 hour 200, and also the 4 hour bullish Dynafib. So if we get a rejection of all that, that should give us a pretty nice short setup there. All right, so let's go to the CAD. I fibbed December's low to high. So we'll be looking for along here, but we'll be a little cautious on the pound pairs because they're all kind of at pivotal areas. So we'll see if the pound continues to fall along with the euro, or if it holds its own against some of the commodity currencies and moves back up. You can see again, large gap. The gaps on the pound recovered very quickly, so we'll have to see when they start moving again. You can see that we pulled back above the daily 200 and the daily 55, and you can see where those have both played key support and resistance roles in the past. We're also inside the Dynafibs on the 4 hour. So I prefer a break to the upside, but we also have good potential for a short as well if we get back below and stay below those daily EMAs. All right, pound odd. You can see this is the combined chart that I've been testing. But again, we had the gap that recovered quickly, and you can see it moved down to some strong, within some strong support EMAs. So I will again be looking for a continuation of that move up. Pound JPY, we had quite a large fall at the end of last week. So if we can close back below, or start to move back below the daily 55, we could have a good short opportunity there. It's probably going to depend on how much USD and JPY moves. We could just see some real volatile swings on this pair. We've also got the potential to move up to the 4 hour 200, or even spike up to the bearish Dynafib on the 4 hour, along with that kind of monthly pivot and 61.8 fib there. All right, pound USD, another significant fall towards the end of the week. So we'll look for continued dollar strength on here. First area that I want to look at reaction for is probably the weekly pivot. We did close, maybe we closed the gap. We got pretty close to it there. So we'll see what happens. I don't know. Yeah, if we look at the weekly, currently we're sitting at pretty key area. So I'll be a little cautious to trade this unless we get really clear momentum to the downside, or if we get a nice pullback and then a good short signal. Euro New Zealand dollar, after the last 2 weeks, right now we're in a pretty good area for a short off of the 4-hour 55 and the 50% fib. So we'll see if that continues to confirm as London opens. EuroCAD didn't move quite as much. I fibbed the last week, but that may need to be adjusted. We'll see what happens around the weekly pivot, if we can break below that or if we come up into the EMA some more. So this one will be kind of analyzed as we go for the week. Euro AUD on the daily, you can see that we had a nice, well, it's kind of hard to see. Let's look at it on the 4-hour. So again, we have the daily 55 providing support. We gapped below it, and just like the pound, quickly recovered. So we will see if Euro AUD continues to move up. We've got quite a bit of stuff in the way on this one, so other pairs will definitely be the preferred. Euro JPY, again, we were making strong moves up across the board on the yen, but their economy has improved a bit despite the QE comparatively when you look at the rest of the world, except for against the dollar. So I'll be careful with the yen pairs. I'm not too keen on them right now, but I did fib last week's move, and we'll see if we close the gap and get a pullback to the weekly pivot and the daily 55 for an opportunity to short. All right, AUD New Zealand dollar. Our first opportunity is probably going to be around WR1. We'll see what happens there. However, we could get a more significant pullback to this area in here. All right, so AUD CAD fibbed from December's high to the low. And we got what might be a good rejection at WR1, the 4-hour 200, 50% fib, 61.8% fib. We're currently sitting inside the bands and just below this midterm fib and monthly pivot. We'll see if we can close back below the weekly pivot for a short. We'll have to be careful with the 4-hour 55 on JPY. Fibbed last week's high to low, so we get a pretty small zone. We didn't move a whole lot. Again, I'm not too interested in trading the yen pairs right now, but we could see a trade if we get a pullback off of the 4-hour 55, which will correspond probably with the 50% fib by the time we get back up there. The Australian dollar versus the US dollar. Like to see a pullback at least to the weekly pivot, if not to the 4-hour 55 for a short. So the New Zealand dollar, Canadian dollar, we can fib December's low to high and see if price continues to tell us that we're in a long position right now, right around the daily 200 and 4-hour 55, and you can see we haven't been able to hold below the 4-hour bullish Dynafib, so we may see a move up from there, but we could also get a pullback down to the 4-hour 200 and daily 55 area, which is also a good horizontal support and resistance area. If we pull back down into that area, we look for a spike in this range around those EMAs to trade back up as well. New Zealand dollar against the yen, looking for more of a confirmation on direction here. You can see we closed down. We've got prices below the 4-hour 200, but the rest of the signals are bullish. The end of last week looks pretty bearish, but we do have this daily 55 pretty close, and we're hanging around this 4-hour 200. So we'll have to see what happens here. We may to find out which direction we want to trade this pair. New Zealand dollar versus the US dollar. We finally moved back down to some previous lows at the end of the month, so we need a pullback. I'd like to see a pullback at least to the midterm fib, if not to the weekly pivot. Dollar against the CAD. We've got not too much to work with. We made a pretty considerable move up. We've got most of the EMAs are pretty far out, so if we could see a shallow pullback to the weekly pivot point for a long, or we may just continue up from where we're at now. USD JPY fibbed actually. The last 2 months I left my fib in place from November's low up to December's high. And we will see what happens here. Again, the yen has been strengthening in December against all the other pairs that I look at, except for the dollar. We went pretty much nowhere. For the month, you can see this was our pretty significant pullback in December, and now we're kind of just teetering in this area. So out of the yen pairs, this is the one that I am probably least interested in trading. All right, and Euro USD. Gap to the downside. We haven't closed the gap yet. It's still bearish, obviously, on Euro USD. We'll see if we close the gap and we can get another short position from the weekly pivot.